I like elephants and God likes elephants. Here's the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast. Hello, I'm the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast. I remember it so you don't have to.
And I'm Nathan. Oh
And
my god.
I'm Linkara.
And I'm Spoonie. I'm back.
Oh, great. Nice. I wish we were reviewing Atop the Fourth Wall movie and the Spoonie movie that doesn't exist.
I would the day that the Spoonie movie finally comes out, that would be the first thing I recommend to you.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Anyway.
welcome back to episode 3 of the Unrealistic Elephant Podcast. If it wasn't clear, I'm Nathan.
And I'm Ian, or Blinky, whatever the fuck you want to call me.
Yeah, whatever. Things have been. How have you been in the past month?
Well, I was telling Nathan right before we started recording that I was a bit sick, so if my voice is a little bit fucky, then that's the reason why. So
Would you get the the really bad one, the scary one, the one that everyone got?
I don't think so. I think I was just sleep deprived, and then I slept for like 18 hours, and then that was enough to just rejuvenate me. So I think it was just, yeah,
Jesus.
I need to take more care of my sleep schedule.
Yeah, 18 hours of sleep is taking real good care of your sleep schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, when you're sick, I guess that's what you need. But yeah.
It wasn't 18 straight hours because I'm looking after a dog right now, so I had to wake up and feed it
Oh
and let it
yeah,
outside.
no,
But
that's fair.
it was pretty much 18 hours of nothing but doing that and then going back to bed.
Yeah. Though it sounds like you had a pretty bad time, but I'm glad we're here, and I'm glad we're here to talk about these two real real upbeat films about both about suicide and honor. Can we talk?
Yeah.
Can we say? Can we? I forget. Does YouTube let you say suicide?
Um, it's one of those things where a lot of people choose not to say it as a precautionary measure, but I don't really give a fuck, and I've never really given a fuck. So
Yeah.
I will.
don't
I will
really care
fight.
either.
I will fight. So
Yeah, and there's no way I'm going to be able to get through talking about both of these movies without saying that word at least once because it's pretty important. Again,
considering one of them is called Harakiri, which is literally what that means in Japanese. Seppuku is, I guess, another word for it, but
seppuku, yeah. But yeah, there was no way that we're not going to be able to talk about the act of taking one's life without talking about these movies. So
I don't know. We could be like the quartering and just be like, Hitler decided to self-delete and like do really stupid like things like that.
Does he really say that?
Yeah, a lot of people do that. I mean,
I know.
I single out the quartering because that was the first thing that came to mind. But yeah,
I would
it's like
single out the
self-delete.
quartering because he's an idiot.
Yeah. Anyway, before we start just hurling insults at everybody in the YouTube community,
why
don't we
really
get into
don't...
Downfall?
Before we do, I have no idea how I keep ending up hurling insults out into other YouTubers. I really hope that no one ever sees this and picks a fight with me one day because I will cry. I can't put up a fight.
It's not even like a personal thing. I just think it's funny.
Yeah, honestly, I've yeah. Well, yeah. Let's start with the first movie. I went first last time, so it is your turn to introduce the film.
All right. So this is basically History Channel the movie because that's all they ever do on the History Channel now is talk about Hitler. But the movie is called Downfall. So this was a movie. It's about the last few days in Hitler's bunker before Berlin got invaded and the Nazi regime fell. And yeah, it's basically recounting the events that led up to and following. I don't want to just say like Hitler's suicide because there's a lot more to the movie than that. But I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I kind of feel like that's sort of like, I don't know. I don't want to say the pull, but it's the one, I guess, event that everybody before they've watched the movie knows what they're getting into in that regard. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, you expect that to be a big climactic thing, but in reality, it's about like the halfway point of the film, um, when
yeah,
when
exactly.
Hitler kills himself, and then everything else is just fallout. Um, but yeah,
Well, I'd say it was more like entering the third act
yeah,
than
I
the
would say,
halfway
yeah,
point. But anyway,
yeah.
regardless, so this was a movie that I first heard about. Actually, I don't think I heard about it. I think it was just my parents rented it from the video store one day in like 2004 when I was like 10 years old and I was watching it. And this is just a wonderful movie for a 10-year-old to watch, right? So,
Well, what were they
uh,
thinking? Where did they even find this movie?
I don't know. Like that's the thing is like my parents don't really watch that many foreign movies in the first place, but they brought this home. I think that maybe they thought that it was okay for me to watch because it was like educational in a way because it is actually about what happened in the Nazi regime, but I don't know if that's like a good excuse.
Yeah, for just because it's educational doesn't mean it's appropriate. Because my God, this is a downer of a film. That it's a great
Yeah.
movie, I would say right now. It's a really really interesting take on this subject matter. But man, it is all doom and gloom, and I guess you have to expect that considering what it's about. But man, it can be a rough watch sometimes for
Oh
some of
yeah.
these scenes. Uh, yeah, but after you watched that movie, shortly after it came out, well, I guess not shortly, in like the heyday of YouTube, this was a very popular uh, movie to take clips from and make memes about, and that's how I knew it. I knew about it from a very famous scene of Hitler yelling at his council in the bunker, and it basically just people would put their own subtitles over it and make him say whatever they wanted him to say, and that was the height of the meme because internet memes were way simpler back then.
Yeah. I I never really liked that meme and I knew that you knew that all too well that I was not a fan of
Yeah.
that meme.
Oh
Even
yeah.
though I was like, okay, I mean, I really like this movie. I'm glad this kind of like underrated gem is finding a sort of life on the internet. But the first time I saw the meme, I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. It's like a funny skit that somebody made. And then the second time I saw it, I was like, oh, well, it's not as original as I thought. And then the third time I saw it, and every other time after that, I fucking hated it.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's a funny concept in theory, but then everyone, and that's how a lot of internet memes were back in the day. Is it was just the same thing over and over again with no iteration, um, and that's the way we liked it, I guess.
That's
Um,
the way we liked it. Reminds me of that old Oreos commercial for Golden Oreos. When I was a kid, Oreos were chocolate, and that's the way we liked it.
yeah, for real. Oh,
I don't know why that popped into my head. Like I haven't thought about that in like 20 years, but
that's crazy. Oh my god.
then
Oh
again,
yeah.
I don't know if I thought about this movie in like almost 20 years either. Well, I mean, I definitely have thought about it because it leaves an impact, but I haven't revisited it.
Yeah. Uh, this I've never seen this movie before. You had seen the movie, and you knew it really well. I only knew it from the clips that I saw online,
Hmm.
and I think that um, I'm really not a war movie guy, like a historical, like war dramas and things like that. It's just not my thing, and that's I'm not going to say that I don't like any of them. It's just I guess I have a I've got ADD. I've got a low attention span. So a lot of this is political talk and things like that. And but it's sort of I don't know, something about this drew me in, and I think the thing that drew me in the most is just how good the performances are in this. Because this is, make no mistake, the other movie we watch is it becomes quite the action movie in the end. But this one is not a whole lot happens in terms of like on screen action. There is some explosions and but this isn't like a war movie in the sense that you're watching like a battle. You're watching a bunch of sad people in a bunker, really sad about the fall of their entire country, and that's really the main draw. Probably the biggest thing is the actor who actually plays Adolf Hitler in this movie is
Bruno Ganz, I think that's his
Bruno
name.
Bruno Ganz. He is incredible. I don't think I've seen a movie where the the character is portrayed so accurately. And I guess I would be no one to say that. But like just watching old footage, like historical footage of Adolf Hitler, I've never seen someone capture the essence and the charisma, I guess, of his character so well in a movie before. Like the big thing I think about is Hitler as a character is so hard to portray in movies because we've had this so many years since World War II and the Holocaust, and what we sort of picture when we think of Hitler is this characterized propaganda version of it.
Yeah.
But this movie does not take that at all. It's very much tries to humanize the character, which is really bold.
Yeah, there was a lot of people before this movie came out. There was so many people that were nervous about even being involved with the production because like if this angle that they took did not go the way they wanted it to, like it would have been such an offensive movie.
Oh yeah, it would. Any wrong choice that you make, and you'll be condemned basically for trying to humanize Adolf Hitler. But it's not done in a way that's trying to like make you feel bad for him. It's really trying to make you understand how a human could act in this way. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
he's not a he is an evil person, but it's not because he's like the devil. It's because he's a man.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big note that I had too, is that like, you know, because there have been criticisms over the years, and I don't know, maybe I guess we can get into that now. I was going to save it for a little bit later, but there have been people over the years who have been like, how dare you, you know, show Hitler in a sympathetic light, or the Nazi regime at all in the sympathetic light. It's like, doesn't that make him scarier, that this isn't like, I don't know, some Freddy Krueger or Leatherface like evil boogeyman like type thing? Like this was a human being that had real emotions that did these things. And
Yeah,
just thinking about that, like it just, I don't know, it doesn't lessen the impact. It doesn't make me glorify what Hitler did. It's like, it just makes me all that much more scared that like humanity could actually reach the point where you know, someone would get it in their mind to do this type of thing.
yeah, that's the thing is you look at characters like in fiction like Darth Vader and uh Sauron. These are all people who are way worse than a human could ever be. But what you're looking at is sort of like a dark mirror of humanity in Adolf Hitler. You see someone who wants to appear charming and wants to be loved by people and has a desire for that, but also has this warped worldview. And it doesn't really go into why he thinks the way he does. And I'm sure that there's a whole other movie that you could watch to go down that rabbit hole. But in reality, it's just, it doesn't really matter why he's the way that he is. He is this way. And
Yeah.
that is what's scary. It doesn't matter why.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you know, there are definitely aspects of World War II that are not addressed in this movie. Like, the Holocaust is never even brought up, really. I mean, Hitler goes
Yeah.
into his hatred for Jews a few times, but the Holocaust itself is, like, the word the Holocaust is never said in the movie, or at least not from the subtitled version I watched, so I don't know. But
Yeah,
yeah, this is very much a. But then again, like, it's not like because Hitler is just such this well-known figure. It's like not every single movie needs to go into the Holocaust and like that. It's like there are plenty of movies that explore that. Not saying that it's not important. Not saying that we shouldn't have movies that explore that, because obviously we should, and it's something that we should remember. But we also, there is this aspect of it too. Like you can watch Schindler's List or something, and then see that aspect of the World War II and its atrocities, and you could also see this movie and look at a different aspect of World War II and its atrocities. And another thing about Bruno Ganz I want to bring up real quickly is I've only ever seen him in one other movie, which was the 1979 remake of Nosferatu, where he played Jonathan Harker.
Oh, did he? Oh my God.
Yeah, and he was really good in that. And but what I really want to bring up for his performance is he's not German. He's from Switzerland.
What?
Like German isn't even his first language, and so I mean he spoke English and Swiss and German. But not only does he speak German like perfectly in this movie, he also studied Hitler so that he would get an Austrian accent to make it even all that much more authentic. So not only was he doing this in his second language, he was doing it in an accent that he's not, native to when he does speak that language. Like
That's insane. Like the links you would go to portray a character like this. That is wild. I had no idea. Because I didn't even. He was Hitler during this movie, and that's a risky undertaking. Like you talk about, like people getting lost in roles. What an insane role to take on.
yeah.
Imagine the toll that would take if you went that deep. Because I can only imagine he went super deep if he did that much research. Imagine the mental toll it would take. But yeah, it's a really remarkable thing that he did, and I'm just I loved his performance. And that's not to say anything bad about the other people who are in this film. Firstly we have what was her? Alexandra Mara Lara. Oh my God!
I like that name, Mara Lara. Maria
Lara.
Lara.
Maria Lara as Traudl Junge, I believe. She was Hitler's secretary in the last days of the war, and she's sort of
she was Hitler's secretary for a couple years before that.
Oh
they
yeah,
say that in the movie.
It was like 2 years. But yeah, regardless, and she's sort of our. There's not really a point of view character. There's not like a character who's like completely detached from the Nazi Party and Nazi Germany. Everyone in this film is tied to it in some way. But she is sort of the point of view character in that she is not engaged in the politics. She's really just sort of following along with the Nazi Party. And she does a really good job with this push and pull of if she should stay or go, and her love and fear of Hitler. It's very multifaceted, and she does an amazing job. I was really impressed.
Yeah, because the movie itself is based off of several different accounts of Hitler's or of these last few days. So like one of them being Until the Final Hour, which is autobiographical by Junge herself. And then there's other books like Inside the Third Reich by Albert Speer, which they also used. And then there's like other books by historians. Albert Speer was also one of the chief officers who's in this movie. And
right.
Yeah, so like they used several different accounts to make this as accurate as they possibly could, because they wanted to make sure, like, whether it be a historian or someone obviously involved in the war, everybody's going to have their own biased view of how it worked out. But, Junge's, I guess, experience in it was one of the main catalysts. So she kind of becomes, I would say, the more sympathetic character that you would follow in this movie, just because, like, she's kind of removed from the politics. But, Yeah, she did a great job, like the actress that played her.
Yeah. Another really great performance would be Goebbels. Joseph Goebbels is played by Ulrich Mathis, and he has just this incredible, like almost like a madness to him. Like he's completely brainwashed by this ideology. You look behind his eyes, and he just has these dark eyes whenever he's talking about the plan and agenda of the Reich. And his wife too, who we'll get into, has an amazingly horrible scene. He does an amazing job.
Yeah, with Eva Braun, one thing I was kind
Yes.
of thinking in this movie is that, people memed that one scene, but there are so many other scenes that you could meme and make funny if you wanted to. And the girl who plays Eva Braun does a great job, but, Eva Braun just is one of the fucking kookiest women who's ever lived.
Oh my
I
God.
mean, she
Yeah.
loved Hitler, so there
Yeah.
you
You
go.
gotta
But
understand.
yeah, but like so much of her like performance was just it, it was kind of amusing in a way, but it was also kind of like harrowing in the same time, because that she was so brainwashed by Hitler, and she does a great job portraying Eva Braun as like, the kook that she was. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's there's so much more from this movie. That wasn't even the whole only scene with Hitler freaking out too. Like there could have been, if you really wanted to meme this movie, you didn't have to like keep using the same, 3 or 4 minute sequence.
Yeah, for real. And just another thing to say. I watched this movie with my partner Avery, and Avery actually said that when they were in middle school, they wrote a whole report on Ava Braun, so they knew a lot about Ava Braun going into this movie. And Ava Braun is for sure, by the end of this, was kooky and out of her mind to still be with Adolf Hitler by the end of World War II. But in reality, it's like sad from that perspective, because she was what, 17, 16 years old whenever she married him. Like it was like a grooming, basically. And
Yeah.
Hitler basically groomed the minds of everyone in Germany, so that's totally understandable from that
Yeah, you could
perspective.
definitely, with Ava Braun, she kind of reminded me of like a Manson family chick
Yeah,
in a
no,
way.
exactly. There's like the I thought it was like darkly funny, the scene where the you can hear shells, artillery shells blasting off in like through the ground in the distance, and she's gathering everyone in the bunker for a party, and she's dancing on the table, and she is in so hard in denial that she's like smiling, and like even right before they go into that room to go kill themselves, she is smiling and she is seeing everyone off. She is totally detached from reality, and it's scary, honestly.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I don't feel like this movie, even though it does, like, I wouldn't say that it makes you sympathize with Hitler. I mean, it does in a way, not empathize with him, of course, but um, with like all this stuff, it's like, okay, yeah, it shows the tragedy from, the Nazi side of view, where like they're all having like this big mental breakdown and all that stuff. But at the same time, not only is it not glorifying what the Nazis did, it's showing that nobody had any idea what to do in this situation. Nobody was on the same page. Like, if
Not
you
yeah.
watch this movie, not only is it just like tragic, but you can totally see why the Nazis lost World War II, because everybody was in denial. Nobody had the same idea of what they should do in this situation. People were disobeying orders. People were, hiding, and like, they did not want to face reality in any way, shape, or form. And yeah, it's, all this shit that like hits the fan. Like, it does not show the Nazis as like a competent political party,
Yeah,
on
that's the
top
big
of them
thing.
just being evil.
You mentioned the History Channel, and I feel like in the modern day, whenever people talk about the Nazis and Hitler, they'll talk about it like he was this the fall of this great man, this evil genius, and he's not an evil genius. They didn't know what they were doing. They were out of their minds if they thought that this was how the world was going to be. It was Hitler didn't even know where his people were. He didn't even know when he didn't know who was alive and who was dead and who was where. Every man for himself. For this entire movie is people don't want to listen to Hitler because he doesn't know what's going on, and Hitler doesn't want to listen to anyone else because he thinks everyone else is betraying him, and nobody knows what to do. Like, people are just it's like a mass suicide, essentially, because everybody just accepts that this is the end and no one else is coming to save them. And it's heartbreaking because it could have been avoided had the people not been brainwashed by his charisma. That's the real thing. Is you notice there's a scene at the very beginning that takes place, I think, 2.5 years before the events of the movie, and it's when Junge actually is hired by Hitler to work as his secretary, and it's immediately apparent that he's putting on the charms. He's trying to be as likable and charismatic as possible. These girls are all swooning over him. Oh, it's the Fuhrer. How lovely. We could work for the Fuhrer. Wouldn't that be great? And it's like you jump forward 2.5 years, and I especially like you see the hand movement, the hand behind his back, because it was rumored that he had Parkinson's, and that's sort of I believe I read that the actor decided that should have been a main character trait for him, is that shaky hand of the Parkinson's taking over, because he was not well at this point. Hitler was on all sorts of drugs. He was riddled by mental and physical illness. He was basically a dead man walking, and it was really interesting to see that side. Again, the modern day military enthusiasts talk about the Third Reich as if it's like this fallen empire of evil, when in reality it's just a bunch of idiots who thought that they had the world figured out and thought that they could just cleanse the world of all the things they didn't like, and they found out. They fucked around and they found out.
Yeah, and this movie does show that side of it, but it also shows through Bruno Ganz's performance and just the writing. It shows like how Hitler could manipulate people and get into people's heads and have them believe this fucked up worldview that he had. Like, it was and it also shows like you were saying, like there's so many idiosyncrasies in his performance. Like, Hitler's like walking around, even when he's just like walking around or something, like he's like very stocky, and you can kind of see him like, something just doesn't feel right about the way that he's moving. And it's just, they just so much intricacies went into this performance, and it's absolutely amazing.
I think that, again, we talk about the making Hitler a human is something that this film does. And again, we talk about how when Hitler shows up in any other movie, the first thing that comes to mind is Inglourious Bastards. He is literally a prop to be killed at the end of the film because Hitler is the most evil person possible. But he's not. He is evil, but he's not like stereotypically evil. He had dreams. He had aspirations. He was a person that went wrong somewhere. A person changed into something else when he got this ideology, and that's what's really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, and you're seeing him pretty much lose this mighty empire, at least in his eyes, what was a mighty empire. You're seeing like all of that crumble around him. So like you do understand why he would have like all these different emotions going through him, even though he does seem like the most evil, human being that's ever existed. And it's kind of in that scene where he's in the bunker yelling at his council, he does actually bring up like, Stalin would kill, the other people or like his high-ranking officers for doing him wrong, and I don't do that. So you could see how Hitler justified his own actions as not being the most evil human being in the world, even though, yeah, Stalin did kill more people. I will admit that. I mean, I don't really think that we really need to have a competition as to
Yeah.
who was more evil or not. But I can totally understand why Hitler himself would use that as a justification for his actions.
Yeah, it's completely in character. Um, why would I respect someone when they take advantage of me so easily? Um, why would I trust any of you when all of you have broken my trust? He's paranoid by the end, because everyone has betrayed him. But the reason everyone has betrayed him is because of his paranoid delusions. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and but even
Yeah.
after, all that, everyone is trying to earn his favor. Goebbels is always right behind him, telling him exactly what he needs to hear. Ava stands by him and loves him unconditionally, which is, I think, if you're married to Adolf Hitler, some conditions should be met if you are going to love somebody. Like it hits all the more because it's inspired by what really happened. I think that it would be one thing if this movie was all fictional events, but it hurts even more when you know that this was a real man and he really did this to all these people. And again, it's not even about killing. It's not even about the Holocaust. Again, I think the Holocaust is only brought up at the end, on the end title cards, where they say where everyone was and what happened to everyone.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Um, but other than that, this isn't about the people outside, the people outside of Germany, or even the Jews within Germany. This is about what Hitler did to Germany itself. You see Hitler Youth being gunned down in the streets by Russians. You see Hitler's officers executing people who are retreating, who are not following his orders. Regular German citizens and civilians are being killed in the streets. Um,
Yeah. And that was another thing Hitler said is like, there is no innocent person in this war. We're all in this together, whether they like it or not.
which is,
And
nobody
that's,
else signed up for that. That was his idea. Like, it really goes to show how deluded he was by the end of it.
yeah, absolutely it does. And yeah, it's like, okay, when I was a kid, the scene that I remembered sticking out the most in this movie is when the German officer goes home to his family and then he ignites the two grenades and then they blow up and then
Oh,
like the stuffed bear falls out of the window and lands on the ground. Like I remember that was just like the most insane thing that I had ever seen as a kid, and it was like one of the most depressing things. I mean, even
yeah,
watching it now, it's still very impactful. But I remember that being the moment in this movie where a switch flicked in my brain, and I'm like, oh, I was totally in for the rest of the ride because I was just like, holy shit, that is one of the most powerful things I've ever seen.
yeah. Honestly, I was a really big fan of in terms of the biggest scene for me. There's the Hitler Youth in the film. I don't quite remember what his name was. Um,
Is it the one that leaves with Junge at the end on the bike?
yes.
Okay.
Peter. Peter was his name.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Peter, at the beginning of the film, his father comes and is telling them, like, you need to go. There is no hope for Berlin. There's no way any of you are leaving alive if you stay here. And all of these kids are so brainwashed that they think he's a traitor. And they basically run him off. All of Peter's friends on that squad die. I believe that most of them die by their own hands. They just kill themselves before
Yeah.
the Soviets can get to them. Um, and Peter survives and ends up going home, but he sees that his family has already been killed by German officers for treason. And it's
Yeah.
just, when you find that out, it's just like, what was the point? What was the point of it all? You didn't save your country. You didn't live up to the praise that Hitler gave him, because Hitler told him that he was braver than any of his generals and officers. He awarded him like, I think, like a medal for he took down tanks, two tanks.
Yeah.
And what does he get? what does he get for that valor, that honor? He gets everyone he knows is dead, and he has nothing to show for it but a war that he lost. And that was the most depressing moment for me, is that, like, this, no matter what happens to this kid, he is not okay now. He is
Yeah.
he this is the end for him. This is like, he can go on living, but what do you do after this?
Yeah, and that's just a big theme of the movie in general, is like with, especially with Hitler, um, they're pretty much all kind of aware that it's the end, but every single different person in this regime is processing that in a different way, and a lot of it is denial, and a lot of it is they want to get away but other people won't let them, and a lot of it is just, you know I don't know if anybody truly believed that they could win the war at this point, but I don't know, maybe Ava Braun did, because she
She was,
just believed in Hitler that much. But
yeah.
yeah, it's all about like the perspective of all these different people, without justifying their actions. Like it really helps you understand, which I think is an important thing. And while I wouldn't say maybe this, I don't know if this is my favorite war movie of all time, but in terms of the ones that centerize around Hitler and you know really follow his story, I do think that this is probably the best representation of the Nazi regime that I've seen in film.
I'd almost tend to agree with you. I don't watch a lot of war movies or historical dramas like this.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'll
but
definitely recommend more.
no, for sure. I think the biggest thing was I'd seen so much media that satirizes Hitler as this maniacal evil person, and he's in Dragon Ball Z. I remember watching a Dragon Ball Z
What?
movie, and where uh, the kid Goku's kids fight Hitler in the B plot of while he's fighting the big bad. Like, all the souls from the dead come back, and Hitler is there. It's not it's As a kid, Hitler was a punchline. We had a friend who was very into not like military and Nazi Germany stuff, and it was often a very big punchline of that Hitler was this funny guy. He was a joke.
Which is fine. Like, it's okay to satirize like Nazis and stuff like that. Like, I love Jojo Rabbit, or like
Yeah,
you know, the old Donald Duck in De Fure's face. When the
yeah.
Jogos come, we we heil,
Heil,
heil, right in
Heil.
the Fuhrer's face. To love the Fuhrer is a great disgrace.
Oh, like,
Anyway,
yeah, like it's so to be shown a version of Hitler that's been scrubbed of all of that. There is no, and I think that's partially because this is a German film made in Germany,
yep,
correct?
yep,
Yeah. So I think part of that is because of who made this movie. I think that North American cultures can't really take this as seriously, because to them he was this evil person on the other side of the world who was trying to take it over. But in Germany, that was very much their life, and it was very much the way that things were back then. I'm sure that we're getting to a point in time that eventually everyone in Germany who was still alive during that time is going to be gone. And what better way to really show off what that was like back then than a film like this that shows that we aren't dealing with this isn't the devil. Like, he's not here to do evil. This is a person who wanted to do what was right in the world, and this was what he believed was the only good thing to do for the world, is to purge anyone who was below them and create a world of only perfect, in quotations, people. And that's why it hits so hard, and that's why I'm such a fan of this movie.
yeah. It's the same for me. It's like, you know, this was such a risky and bold move. I don't know if I would say that like North American people can't comprehend
Oh yeah,
the
no.
or like this, but like I do understand like it is better. Um, well, better. I would just say like there is a certain level of authenticity that comes with making this a German production. Um,
Yes.
and seeing, because it really is about the effects that Hitler had on Germany, and Berlin specifically. And it's just near the beginning of the movie when he's talking about, oh yeah, let's let the bombs go off, like let's let the Soviets bombs the buildings around us because it'll be easier or or less cost effective than if we just if we tore them down ourselves. If we tore them down ourselves. And a Porky Pig moment there. But, so, but yeah, it's like, it's funny because like you can see the kind of weird warped logic in that if you're trying to understand how Hitler would see it. I obviously wouldn't do anything like that, like if I was in charge, but like it does make sense why Hitler would do something like this. And that's why it just frustrates me, the criticism of this movie where people are saying like, how dare you sympathize with, a Nazi. And another thing about that is like, why aren't we saying that about other movies that look at like horrible parts of humanity? Like, why aren't we saying that about The Godfather? Like, how dare you sympathize with gangsters?
Yeah.
Like,
Like there's a very different way that you're supposed to sympathize, because I think that a lot of people did back in the day. I think a lot of people would say that like mafia movies and gangster movies were very much glamorizing and romanticizing the idea of like organized crime and things like that. I don't think this movie is trying to do that in the slightest. If anything, it's trying to make the Nazism and the Third Reich look rotten, like flies buzzing around rotten. Like it is. Hitler is sick, and his ministers are all brainless, and it is rotten to the core. That is what I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, I also don't think any of those gangster movies are really doing that either. I mean, if you
No,
want to
yeah,
be, if you watch Scarface, then and you want to become a gangster after that, it's like, did you not see the ending where
yeah.
he kills his sister, or well, he doesn't kill his sister, but he kills his sister's like husband, and then and then like he dies and he loses everything. It's like, you
That's
know,
what you want.
and in the same way, like I can watch that and see Tony Montano, who was a real person, as being a horrible person that you shouldn't follow or aspire to be like. And it's the same thing with this. It's like I don't see Hitler as someone like, if you watch this movie and you want to become a Nazi after, then one, you're an idiot. Two, you probably already had those beliefs instilled within you in the first place, because there's nothing glamorous about this movie.
Yeah, no, this movie is dirty. Like it feel like you want to wash your hands when you're done watching this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course this isn't to the same degree, but I think the same thing. Media literacy is very important. To know what like a filmmaker or any sort of creator is going for is so important when you're experiencing something like this.
Yeah.
I think that the again, there's no comparison here, but we were talking like something like a lot of people watch TV shows like Breaking Bad, like I guess like Peaky Blinders and BoJack Horseman, and look at the main characters and think, "Wow, this person's just like me. That means that I'm a good person, and everyone's screwed up." And it's like, no, that's not at all what you're supposed to take away from that. What you're supposed
So a
to
lot of
take
people
away
did
is
that with Joker too.
yeah, the Joker. That's exactly another perfect example of that. Just some people have no media literacy and don't understand what someone is going for. You really need to, before you make a criticism like that, really think about what the filmmaker is trying to say, rather than taking it at face value.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, going into the filmmakers, the director, I don't want to pronounce his name because I'm gonna fuck it up, but the director has made a bunch of other movies that are, it seems like everybody in this movie is also bilingual, because they also appear in English productions as well as the German ones. And the director has made like some other English and German movies, and some of them have good reviews, some of them don't. But I've never seen any of them. But I would totally, because like the directing in this movie is so like well done. Especially I was, remembering like the lighting when
Oh
they're getting
yes.
bombed and like the everything's flickering, and with the camera like following them down that tunnel. It's like it's all so well done, and as something that could have been just kind of a throwaway thing because it is a lot of people talking to each other in rooms. It's a very dialogue heavy movie, but the amount of emphasis that the director puts in here is just so well done and everything like that. So like he really knows how to shoot this in the right way, and I don't think that he could have done a better job if he tried.
Another thing I can't believe I didn't bring up, just the yeah, like what you're saying, the cinematography and the the set design is incredible because it's just so incredibly claustrophobic. If you want to talk about that big scene that got popular online, the one in the bunker when he's yelling at his ministers, he's I think there must be like 15, 20 dudes in this room listening to Hitler talk, and this room is like a Japanese subway. It is just packed, and every scene is like that. Everyone is just stuffed into these little rooms where you can like feel the body heat when you're watching, and you could feel how tight everyone is cramped into these scenes. Even scenes when there's not that a whole lot of people in the room. There's a couple scenes where Hitler and his ministers and Junge, and a couple of the other people who work for him are having dinner in this dining room in the bunker, and the room is so tiny. The table is basically squishing them into the walls of this room, and it just you feel like you can't get out. And that's exactly what they're trying to really hammer home is Junge and everyone in here can't leave. Like they could, but not while Hitler's still around. He will have them killed. Anyone who leaves is a traitor. Anyone who leaves is a deserter and will be executed. So you are complicit or you die. There is no choice, and that's really the cinematography really lends to that. And God, I was so impressed with that. Like, because it's one thing to be able to for a dialogue heavy movie like this to emphasize that, but it's another thing to let the cinematography add to that so incredibly
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. It's like some of it is like because yeah, there's a lot of stationary shots when they're talking and stuff like that, but even then it's like the camera will move slightly to like really emphasize the emotion of another character. But yeah, when it is, I don't really want to call it action because, well, I mean, you could call it action in a certain way, but yeah, when explosions are happening, they really know how to use shaky cam, for example, in like a way that's like not, it doesn't feel gimmicky. It doesn't feel like a lot of other movies do when they use shaky cam. But
Yeah.
yeah, like it's very well done. And the writer for this movie, who is also the producer, I have seen some of the work that he's produced, because he's also done Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil movies. He produced those. He produced
What?
Fantastic Four and Rise of the Silver Surfer. So like those movies. But he also produced The Never Ending Story in the '80s. So I'll I won't say
Oh
like
my
it's all
God.
doom and gloom so, that he did, but yeah, it's just kind of funny that he did kind of schlocky English movies while really doing this like super you know mature and beautiful, well, beautiful not in terms of like the subject matter, but beautiful in terms of the way that he wrote it and put it together. Like he did a really great job here.
That's so funny. I'm looking at his Wikipedia page right now. He also he
Oh, DOA Dead or Alive, he did that
I was
too.
about to say DOA Dead or Alive. Oh my God, that's so funny. Oh my God.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
he's unfortunately passed away. But I would totally
yeah,
go and check out some of the other movies he wrote. I think he's a better writer than a producer, from what I've seen. But
yeah. No, I think he spends his talent, his writing talent better than he spends his money.
yeah, exactly. Except for I guess in the 80s, never-ending story. I'll give him that.
Yeah, we'll give him Never-Ending Story. That sounds good.
Okay,
um,
so do you have anything else to say about this movie? I mean, I'm just gonna go through my
I
notes and see.
before we go to the next movie, I wanted to talk about. I think I talked about that scene with Peter and his father, but I think that the only other scene that really hit home and was really disturbing to me, if we're talking about like as a war movie, I think that was the best scene. But as a horror movie, in terms of psychological damage, um, when Goebbels' wife decides to drug and kill I think there was 6 children that they had in their
Yeah,
sleep. Me and Avery were just watching that scene, just like gobsmacked, because we were like,
yeah,
we don't know what happened. So basically, we didn't want to spoil it ourselves. We didn't want to look it up. So, but like, there's a scene before where they're giving the medicine to all the kids, and one of them refuses, and she basically has to hold her mouth open and make her swallow this medicine, and it's like, how could you even do that? Like, could you imagine going that far for a political ideology? And it was that. If you need to see any scene from Downfall to really emphasize what this movie is like, you don't need to see a scene of Adolf Hitler yelling at somebody in a room in the bunker. You need to see that scene and then realize how evil these people really were.
yeah. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that along with, I mean, the scene with the guy blowing up his family, like that happened earlier in the movie, so that was kind of like the inciting incident that really like shook me. That was like the first part of the movie that really shook me, but that part too, when I was a kid, like it stuck into my mind until this day, and I was kind of waiting for that scene to come up again when I was rewatching it for this
Yeah,
podcast. So
yeah, but yeah, I think that's the perfect way, the perfect last thing for me to say is it's this movie is I would recommend it to anyone who um, is interested in the history of World War II and I guess of Nazi Germany.
I think that if you're not like a war buff, this movie gives you enough context to understand what's going on, both in terms of the political talk and just like the human tragedies that are going on. Like if you're, I also think like if you're a war buff, you'll probably really like this movie. But if you're not a war buff, this could maybe get you more interested in learning more about that type of thing. It certainly did for me when I was 10 years old because I didn't, like, I knew who Hitler was. I didn't understand the whole scope of everything that he did. And, this really like showed me a different side of Hitler, or like it was kind of my introduction into like I guess more of an intimate side of Hitler in terms of what he was actually going through and what the man himself was actually like, and not this like, and I think like a lot of people don't have that because Hitler's been kind of rightfully so, might I add, he's been like pegged as like the personification of human evil, but that's just the thing. It's human evil. Like, it's not boogeyman evil. It's not the devil. It's not, Satan. Well, the devil is Satan, but it's not a devil or Satan. It's like, you know,
He's a man.
yeah, this really like shows you the actual person. And I think that, with so much different media, covering Hitler, maybe in a more tongue-in-cheek way, like Jojo Rabbit or a Donald Duck cartoon, um, which are still really good and have really good political messages to them. And especially, Jojo Rabbit, much like this movie, does go into like how, Hitler had an effect on the youth around the time. Even though it is a comedy, it's still like, really sharp in its satire in that regard. But I think this movie could really, really get you into like, learning about this type of thing.
I absolutely agree. Again, I said I'm not a war movie guy. I think the last war movie I saw was Hacksaw Ridge in theaters, and I think I can't remember the one I saw before that. Um,
I don't remember anything about that movie except for like Vince Vaughn being a drill
that
sergeant.
was that was strange. Yeah, but I remember thinking it was pretty good, but I remember thinking, why did you put Vince Vaughn in this movie?
Yeah.
But no, I definitely, if you want to recommend me any more war movies for this podcast, I will gladly take it because I am opened up now, and I'm ready to accept more.
I definitely have more I could choose from, and like I said, this might not even be my favorite war movie of all time, but it's definitely up there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely put this somewhere. Like if I were to make like a list of my top 100 or 200 favorite movies, Downfall would be on there, as would the
That's
next
good.
movie.
Oh, perfect. Yes, this is a perfect segue. So, we will take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be talking about Harakiri. So, stay tuned. And we're back. Yeah, now it is time to talk about um, a movie that I hadn't even seen. This is probably the first time I think, yeah, this is the first time I recommended a movie where both of us. Well, actually, you had seen the movie. You've seen
Yeah,
both of the
I
movies we recommended.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is Harakiri, directed by Masaki Kobayashi in 1962. Um, as I said in the last episode, I'm a big fan of Hideo Kojima, and I watched his Criterion Closet picks that came out a couple months ago, and this is one of the movies he recommended. I
But the funny thing is like I'm not a big fan of Hideo Kojima's games, but I am a really big fan of him as a person. Every time I
Oh
see him in
yeah,
an interview, it's like I absolutely love this guy.
no, he's great. I know that I'm a big fan of Metal Gear, and you are very much not. But I respect him a whole lot, and I respect his artistic vision. Um, I think that I when I was watching that, I was like, shit, I really do want to watch more Japanese movies because my good friend Ian is likes Japanese movies so much. I bet he would be really happy if we watched some Japanese movies. So honestly, this is just
It's kind of
this was a,
funny. With Japanese movies, it's like you watch a lot of Japanese movies, and so do I. But you watch a lot of anime, and I watch a lot of
yeah.
live action Japanese movies. So
Yeah, I watch a lot of anime, um, more than I care to admit.
yeah,
So yeah, but I had been saying I've been wanting to watch a samurai movie recently, or something to that effect. So I chose this one, and I didn't really know a whole lot about this movie. I didn't spoil myself before we started. I forget what Kojima said when he was recommending this movie, but whatever he said really stuck with me. And I was like, shit, I might as well throw it on the podcast because I'd love to
it
talk
stuck
about
with
it.
you so much that you forgot what he said. But
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this I'm gonna come right out the gate and I'm gonna say something really bold. I think this is my favorite movie that I've watched for the podcast so far of any of these movies.
yeah,
I think we that's the only one that I've watched twice. I watched it this week and then I watched it again with my partner. And God,
was
this
that like
is
yesterday when you
yeah,
watched it
just
again?
just yesterday. We're recording this on the 18th, and I watched it yesterday, again. And my God, you know what? I'm gonna let you talk about it first because I don't even know where to start.
Okay, so yeah, this is a movie from Masaki Kobayashi, who is considered to be one of the great Japanese directors of his era, which was also the era of like Ozu and Kurosawa and all the other great Japanese directors.
Hmm.
Well, that came out in that area, and then there was people like Obayashi that came out a little after that. But with this director, this was actually the second movie I saw from him. The first one was Kawaiden, which is a Japanese horror movie that's based off of like folklore and horror and stuff like that. It's about like Japanese ghost stories, which is I really like that movie. Some people find it kind of slow. I still think it's a really great movie, but this was the second movie I saw from him, and it's still like he's also really well known for the Human Condition trilogy, which I really want to see. The only thing is like altogether it's about 10 hours. So it's a bit of a, commitment and a time sink. But Harakiri is considered by many to be his magnum opus, if not the Human Condition trilogy. And, this is actually number one on Letterboxd in terms of all the movies that came out. It's
Oh
like the
wow.
highest ranking movie on Letterboxd, period.
Oh
At
my
least
gosh.
as of this recording. That could change. I don't know. But
That would be crazy.
yeah, that's and you know what? It deserves to be. I'm not saying it's my favorite movie of all time, but it deserves as much praise as any other movie I've ever seen. I will say that much. And yeah, so the story, like, it's hard
Okay.
to
Yeah.
describe the story because it's non-linear. It's very
Yeah.
much it jumps all over the place, but it's essentially about this samurai who goes and he goes to uh
The House of E.
yeah, okay, that's what I was looking for. The House of E.
Yeah.
And he wants to commit harakiri because that's what a lot of samurai around that time did. It was part of their, code of honor or whatever,
Oh yes.
which this movie really goes into the samurai code of armor. But
Yeah, and just honor in general, but we will get into that.
yeah. And so he's basically telling the people of this clan that he wants to commit seppuku in their, or seppuku. I don't know how if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
No, seppuku would be it.
Okay. But anyway, yeah, he's going to commit seppuku in their courtyard. Or at least he wants the permission to, and he gives them this story, and it's kind of like, the leader of the clan does not want to do it because of his past experience, which he's not aware of, but it is connected and linked to this guy, even though he's trying to like portray himself as like a wandering samurai. So it's very much a movie, kind of like Rashomon, the Kurosawa movie, where it's very much
Mhm.
about the different perspectives of the individuals involved. And, you know, I don't even know if I could say that this is even, the story of Hashiro. That was the name of the main character. Hanshiro, sorry.
Hanshiro
Um,
Tsugomo.
yeah. So, like, it's not even like exclusively his story. This is very much about like all these different people who were affected by these different things, and then it goes into their backstories. And yeah, I don't even know if I could summarize this movie in like one or two sentences because it covers a lot of ground in its runtime.
I could give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, in the shortest terms I could possibly give, uh, Hanshiro arrives at the E house and requests to commit Harakiri in their forecourt. And so he's met with Saito, which is the counselor of the master of the house, and he basically lets him know that another member of his clan, which had fallen since the introduction of the new shogunate, um, had asked the exact same thing and showed up with bamboo swords, trying to extort them for money by asking to commit harakiri in their forecourt, which is something that had been happening for a while. So basically, he tells him the story of how they forced him to commit harakiri with those bamboo swords, which is such a brutal way to do this. But I really like the way they do this. It's this beginning section is essentially telling the story of this harakiri from the perspective of the Ii clan and from the perspective of Saito, as somebody who is trying to maintain the honor of their clan. Because in this time period, samurai clans survived off of their honor and respect. It was a very, very important thing to them, and to be known as someone who could be taken advantage of because of their kindness would be something to be exploited, something to be taken by other people. And he's hesitant at first until one of the retainers, a couple of the retainers recommend just having him forcing him to commit harakiri, follow through. He wants to be an honorable samurai. He has to do it, which makes sense in the moment. All you know about this Ronin who came and tried to commit harakiri as an extortion plan is that he was trying to deceive them, and they essentially reacted in the only way they could to retain their honor. And in that moment, you feel like it's justified. That of course is changed once you figure out Hanchiro's story, but it's a really interesting way to go about it. Is having him show up, then telling the past, and then coming back to the present to continue along, and then finding out more from a different perspective. And I really, really like that. It's almost like a mystery. And it was a really interesting way to go about it, because it's showing both sides in a really interesting way that makes you understand where both of them are coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, have you seen Rashomon, or do you know what that's about?
I haven't seen Rashomon, but
Yeah.
that was a Kurosawa movie, correct?
Yeah, that's a Kurosawa movie. I think it's from the same writer as this movie, which a lot of the Kurosawa movies are. I'll get into that a little bit later. But with with Rashomon, it was kind of like about a trial that was happening in and it was all about these three different people who saw what they saw from a different point of view. And I'm a firm believer that there are three sides to every story. There's one person's side, there's the other person's side, and there's what actually happened. And this is a very good movie that's a testament to that.
But yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's just so much about this movie that really goes into, like, I don't know if I would say that this is my favorite movie about samurai of all time. It might be. Kurosawa's Ran comes very close to this, in my opinion. But I will say, though, that in terms of analyzing what a samurai is, and what their code of honor was, and even a lot of the criticisms of the hypocrisy of that code, which does come up in this movie, like, this is, I think, the best deconstruction of a samurai I've seen in any movie, like, ever.
Absolutely, because like, Hanshiro tells this story, and you find out that really the situation with Motobe, the original Ronin who was killed at the EE house, is not as clear cut as it seemed. You again, from that first story, you can tell that this person was trying to steal from the EE clan, trying to deceive them in a dishonorable way. He threw away his honor for the means of getting money. But what you find out in the end is that the money was to save his family, to save his wife, to save his livelihood. He threw basically all of that honor away because it's useless to him if his family doesn't get to live. And from that perspective, everything changes. Everything that you understood about samurai changes. And I think the best way to do that is through the narrative device of Hanshiro telling his story before his execution, or I guess not his execution, his harakiri, is probably the best way you could find out about that. Because Hanshiro, as again, you said that the movie's not entirely about him, but he is at the center of every main event in this movie, essentially, except for maybe Motobe's harakiri. But I love...
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a bunch of scenes that are, like, not even... There's a bunch of sequences in the movie that are not even about him, but it still feels very much like his story. In the same way that, Downfall had a lot of sequences that weren't Hitler, but, you can still kind of see it centralized around Hitler.
Yeah. But yeah, Tatsuya Nakadai is the actor who plays Hanshiro, and he's got this range in this movie that I don't see in a whole lot in movies often, where it's almost... I think I've asked you, have you ever watched Columbo?
I don't think so.
Well, basically, Columbo is if you or anyone listening right now doesn't know, Columbo was this detective who had a bunch of specials back in the 70s and 80s. He was basically this bumbling detective that uh, always seemed like he was very naive and didn't really know what was going on. But in reality, at the end, he would always have one more thing, and he would always have one last thing to say that would crack the case wide open. And he was very charming in that way. He was a very soft sort of character, sort of the antithesis to like the hard-boiled detective. And I think that Nakadai's performance in this movie is really reminiscent of that. And if you really like his performance, I'd honestly recommend Columbo, because he has this, when he comes in, he's very much dead set on his harakiri, but as he's being presented all this information, he just sort of reacts with like a, oh, I see. Oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, well, that's totally fine with me. You know best. He very much goes with the flow until he's in the perfect position where he is he is in the forecourt, uh, and even though he's at the mercy of everyone there, he feels like he's the one in control at every time whenever there's a scene actually
Yeah.
at the site of the harakiri. And that's what I really love is he never plays his hand too early. Everything is very, very deliberate in how he does these things. In a very Japanese way. I feel like any other movie would go for the John Wick revenge option, in like a Western film. But this movie, it's very much he just wants to be in front of these people to explain why what they did was wrong, and see if they can see what hypocrites they've made of themselves because of this dishonor they've done to his son-in-law. And
Yeah.
it's again, it's all about honor. In that he threw away that honor of a samurai for the honor of a man, a father, a husband, and
Yeah.
that's even though that he was dishonored himself as a samurai, his honor as a man was still intact. And I just love the way that that is presented here.
Yeah. And a huge part of this movie is, you know, exploring the theme of whether or not it's worse to live dishonorable life or die a honorable death. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's I really love the way that they really delve into that, and from both sides, because it's like even at the end of the movie where he kills himself and like all the people in the clan. I mean, he kills a few people in the clan, but you know the clan is still intact. It really feels like okay, he died, everybody else lived, but it feels like the people who lived didn't win in the end. Like they didn't get the upper hand, even though they're the ones still living and he's the one, you know, that's, you know, no longer with us.
yeah, and not even that. It's not that they killed him and they won, but it doesn't feel like they won. They killed him. They lost people in the fight against him, but the history has been rewritten. In the books of history, it is known that he was deranged and committed harakiri in their forecourt, and everyone who died of illness, and there was no dishonor. But even in that case, it still feels like a defeat, because they were defeated by him to a point where they had to erase his legacy from history. Nobody could know of what happened here, and that hit so much harder than if everybody found out of what the EE clan did to Motobe. It is so much better that they are the only ones who know their own sins. And that is it. Honestly, I think that a lot of people who don't have as open of a mind might be able to watch this movie and be disappointed with that ending, but I could not disagree more. I was so happy that they went the way that they did.
Oh yeah, me too. And it really like I mean it's a commentary on history itself. It's just more so than I mean obviously with something like Downfall they used a bunch of different references from a bunch of different people at the time to like, you know, recreate that, but you know, if everybody within a clan is, you know, they they want to cover something up, and they put that in the history books. I mean, yeah, there's history is so fucked and warped from what we actually think that happened just because we read it in books. Like, there are so many unreliable narrators in history, especially because the whole idea of history is that, or at least the way they present it to people in, grade school and stuff, is like, yeah, every single war was won by the right side. And
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly. Like
yeah,
how crazy is that? I can't believe every good person won every war ever. No, like that it seems a little too convenient.
there's so much about this movie that really, and also like it feels like a deconstruction of like, not like just life back then, because I feel like a lot of people, not to insult weebs or whatever, but I feel like a lot of people do have this kind of idealized version of Japan in their head, and
Oh
like
yeah.
they don't like they just see everything as Japan as being totally wonderful, and these samurai, they just had this, impenetrable armor that you never see anymore, and it's like, no, there's definite criticisms that you can draw from like these type of situations, like with the clans and with the samurai. And it's like, even though like Hanshiro comes out on top in the end, I don't really consider him to be like an honorable person in his own, like, even though that's what he's fighting for a lot of the time. There's also a lot of hypocrisy in what he does, and the ways that he goes about doing or trying to get to where he needs to be. um and it doesn't shy away from showing you that on both sides, that like nobody is completely innocent here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He came there with the full knowledge that he was going to kill people who were not involved in essentially the proxy murder of Motobe. That he knew that there was people who were not involved in it that were going to get hurt, but he knew that this is something that he had to do for himself, because at this point he's lost everything, and a person who's lost everything has nothing to lose. So why he had to do what was right for himself before he could die. um he's a really incredible character, even just like visually. When you see him for the first time chronologically, when his clan is still strong, and together, he's very put together looking samurai, very um very stereotypical. He's well built, and he's put together, and he's got nice robes. And then
So
as the movie
stereotypical that
progresses,
he's been cast as a samurai in so many other movies. Like, I mean, he's in pretty much all of uh Kobayashi's other movies. He's in a bunch of Kurosawa movies like Ran and High and Low. I mean, and they're not all samurai movies, but there's a reason they stuck with Nakai, or how do you say his name?
Nakadai.
Tetsuya Nakadai. Yeah, Tetsuya Nakadai. There's a reason, like, he's really one of the best kind of actors from this era, and one of the most iconic actors from this era. And like, if you need a movie that showcases his talents, you could watch any of the movies that I just talked about. But I think that Harakiri is probably the best one you could point to in that regard, just because he goes through so many emotions. He is an unreliable narrator. He is doing all these different things, and there's so much in his performance that, like, he doesn't outright say a lot of stuff. There's so much subtlety in it. And you really have to like look at his facial expressions and try to determine what is he actually thinking in this moment. At pretty much every moment, even like what he's saying and what he's actually thinking are two completely different things pretty much throughout the entire movie. I don't think that, except for at the end when he reveals his like intentions, but I don't think any time before that there's a moment, maybe looking after his family a little bit, but even then he's kind of bullshitting them in certain regards. So yeah, there's just so much of like what you need to read in this character that's not completely, or it's not outright said, and the movie just does such a great job at doing that. Like,
Hmm.
it's, and his performance, I could not praise it enough, because there is so much going through their head. It's like you can just watch any single frame from this movie, independently of watching it from the rest of the movie, and you will pretty much go like, damn, what is this guy thinking at this moment? Like it's such a fascinating character study.
Oh yeah, I you said it. He goes through a wide range of emotions. You see him in this content, everyday life in post-war Japan, or not post-war in the sense that we would think of it, but
Yeah.
an era of peace. And he's well put together, and he's a respectable man. And then his clan falls, and now he's this down on his luck beggar, basically scraping by barely every single day. But he still holds on to that honor of that's the big thing in this movie, is the sense of honor in not just for a samurai, but for a father, for a daughter, for a husband, for a wife. Um, he like just talking about there's a scene that he's talking about his story when he's living in a rundown hut. He's making barely any money, and his landlord suggests marrying his daughter off when she turns 18, and eventually she'll be sold off to one of the big houses, and opportunities will open up for him. He'll finally be able to make money, but he does not take that opportunity. And of course, when you think about that in the modern day, it's like, of course, she's your daughter. You wouldn't. She's not an object. She's not someone that you are to sell off. She has her own agency. But in reality, if he had done that, then it's horrible to say, but he probably would not have lost everything like he did, because of that honor of him as a father. You talk about Motobe throwing away his honor as a samurai for extorting the Ii family to try to get money for his son and his wife. His wife, who basically worked herself to death trying to take care of her family. It's not really brought up as much, but they say that she basically, because of the labor that she had to go through for the hard, poor life that they had, basically just her frail body couldn't handle it, and she did it all for her family. Like, we're talking about honor exists in many different forms other than the honor of a samurai. So I think that starting the movie off with the story from the perspective of Saito, the counselor, defending the honor of their house as samurai, it really puts into perspective that he only cares about he and everyone there only cares about a samurai's honor, when in reality there's much more honor that can be upheld that is just as valid in these
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah, that's true. And it's like, this movie kind of starts off as like a deconstruction of what honor means to a samurai, but as the movie goes, it's like you kind of realize that, okay, it's not just specifically the samurai that they're talking about. It's just about people, and these universal themes of honor. Even though like it's obviously a period piece, I don't think that it's a period piece. Like when you make a period piece like this, you really have to like have these themes that resonate with like more of a modern audience, so that you can help them understand what something like this would be like back then, and what like the you know I guess the trials and tribulations of different people would be. And in terms of just like honor and how that comes into all these people's lives, that's very much what this movie, I think, is at its heart and soul. Is it really is examining what it actually means to be honorable.
No, for sure. And that honor can overtake people and make them not think of certain things. I think that even when we're talking about Saito, I would say would be the primary antagonist in this movie. Even though you can sort of understand where he's coming from, but at the beginning of this movie, by the end, you pretty much agree that he is the one who made the mistake, and he is the one that made the decision that basically led him down this path of destruction with Hanshiro. But Hanshiro, as you said, is not a reliable narrator. He says things like, Motobe begs basically to get 1 or 2 days respite before he has to commit harakiri, and they don't let him. Um, Motobe basically, or I should say, Hanshiro essentially says he probably was just coming to say his goodbyes and let us know the situation, and he would have come back. When in reality, Motobe is dead. We have no way of knowing what he would have done. Motobe could have ran off exactly like they thought he would. The fact of the matter is we don't know anyone's true path and what they would really be doing. And that code of honor can sometimes blind us to like the human effort that others are trying to put in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very much, I don't feel like I want to hammer on the theme of honor a whole lot longer because this movie is about more than that. But
Oh yeah,
I
no,
mean, it is a huge part of what makes this movie work. And that's the reason why we're hammering it in so much is that this is very much, it is a samurai movie, but it really is just a movie about human beings. And,
yes,
that's kind of like the best genre movies that you can think of, whether it be, westerns or sci-fi. It's like if it's really just about the emotions of people, whether they're human or not, that really is what grounds this stuff and makes it so impactful. And because it's not just like a movie where it's like, ooh, I want to see samurai running around and slicing people up because samurai are cool. Like that's not this type of movie.
yeah, and
It's very much,
I would say that the ending of this movie very much subverts that.
yeah, because that's the thing. Yeah, that like a lot of the fight sequences at the end, I'm not even talking about like the end fight sequences. I'm talking about when he's in the field with the
Yes,
having that duel, which a lot of people, I think they would watch that scene. But then again, this is the highest rated movie on Letterboxd, so maybe they don't. But I feel like a lot of people would say, "Oh, that's such an unsatisfying thing." You ended it before the battle actually ended. But it's like the way that they frame it. It's such an impactful way to like, frame that this guy took another guy's life,
yeah,
and it's like it really hammers that home. Kind of like the Hitcher, what we were talking about too, like the use of implication in that movie. I think it's very
yes,
much true in Harakiri, with a lot of the way that they do it, and even so, there's still a lot of the fight sequences are still really well choreographed. Like they work as action sequences, but I don't know. I don't get the feeling I do from like an action scene where it's like this is super exciting. It's like yeah, but also this is really tragic in its own way.
yeah. But yeah, just to talk about that fight with him and Omodaka, I believe is the last person who fights him. He's
Yeah.
a sword master, and he's the last person he has to confront about the death of Motobe. And the first thing I thought of is a lot of the time when you watch a sword fight in a movie, especially nowadays, it's very like fast paced and exciting. That's the main thing is you want to keep the attention of someone when you're watching an action scene like that. But the first thing I thought of when I was watching that scene is when they both drew their swords and they were approaching each other. The only thing I could think of is Empire Strikes Back, and the fight between Luke and Vader. It's this silent. When you watch Empire Strikes Back, in comparison to like the fight between Luke and Vader in Return of the Jedi, the fight in Return of the Jedi is fast paced. There's flips. They're throwing lightsabers and stuff like that. In Empire, it Luke doesn't really know how to do that, so it's very much the slow paced, like it's almost like a mental chess battle. Is they're just standing there looking for openings in each other, and there's like a lot of the time there's just the sound of lightsabers and like no score, and that's sort of what this the fight between Hanshiro and Omodaka felt like. Is it really felt well choreographed in a sense that at any moment the other person could take the other person's life, and it was really tense. And just the way that everything is shot, the field with the grass blowing, and God, I was so
Yeah.
gobsmacked at how well shot this movie was. Not only just with its dialogue scenes, but with its action scenes. Um,
Yeah.
it was
That's not
incredible.
even something
Yeah.
we've gotten into yet. Is like the just how amazing this is directed, much
Yes.
less
Yeah.
written. It's like, and yeah, it's like when you watch like Star Wars. Star Wars is very much taking inspiration from a lot of these old samurai movies
Oh
and
yeah.
different westerns and Flash Gordon serials and a bunch of other things, the Muppets even, but
Yeah.
like like what they really, and that's the thing, it's like you realize why Star Wars was so popular because it took like all these different, it was kind of like a celebration of movies and it did them all very well in that regard. So with when you go back to like these old samurai movies, I mean like Kurosawa's of course, but also Kobayashi's, this is very much like you see the influence on so many different things, not even just Star Wars, but like westerns. Like, Sergio Leone is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, who did Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Once Upon a Time in America. Uh, and you can see like the different inspirations that like they took, like these long shots, you know, these movies that also have these great soundtracks, but they also are not just constantly blaring the soundtracks at you. They really use silence to their advantage too. And I do want to go into the soundtrack of this movie as well, but before I get into that, to go into like just some of the directing and stuff like that, like the very first shot of this movie is amazing and it never ever stops until the end shot, which is pretty much a replica of the first shot of the samurai armor. This movie is like perfectly directed. I don't think that I don't know, like I don't want to say that like there's no flaws within the movie. I'm hard pressed to think of what they would ever be though. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like there's
Damn
like in
close to perfect, I would say.
yeah, there's just so like every single shot of this movie, like we talked about every frame of painting last time, but this is the type of movie that type of mentality is made for, because you could like you could put any of the frames in this movie on your wall as a beautiful image and it would work. And you know it would, there's just so much to appreciate in terms of every single shot. um and another thing, I didn't even really mention this about Downfall, but I wanted to, is that the way that the movie uses such a claustrophobic atmosphere when you're in Hitler's bunker, I also think this movie does the exact same thing when you're within the walls of this clan, because he feels so trapped in a way, but at the same time, he's also kind of manipulating everybody around him. So it's like, you can feel like the four walls closing in on him, and that being a metaphor for his upcoming death. uh but I feel so claustrophobic when I watch this movie, but in a good way, like in a way where it's like, the environment really gets under my skin. And when you go into like that wide shot of them in a field, it still feels claustrophobic in its own way, because even though they're out in a field, they feel very much trapped within this conflict and only one of them is walking away from it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, again, to bounce off what you said about the forecourt where most of the movie takes place is in this courtyard. And yeah, the courtyard is totally surrounded by walls, and just the structure of it makes you feel like you're trapped. But in reality, the courtyard is only open toward the top, so it sort of gives you this openness to it that makes you feel like, yes, he's trapped, but there's something more happening here.
Yeah.
Just from the setting that it's in, especially in the later half of the movie, once he reveals his hand and lets them know what exactly is going on, he is basically surrounded by armed retainers on all sides. Like where the movie started, and he was very much welcomed as a guest and welcomed because of his honor. Now he is trapped like like some sort of prey, and they're just waiting for him to pounce. And he basically never moves from his spot for the whole movie until the very end. And like, wow, what an amazing way to shoot a movie! Because there is, again, all the present shots are basically the same structure. You've got Saito sitting at the front of the house, speaking with Hanshiro. Hanshiro sitting on the tatami in the center of the courtyard, with all of the guards and retainers unmoving, and yet it doesn't feel like tired. Every time you go back there, it's not like, oh, this shot again. It reminds you of where you are, and it keeps you trapped in that scene. You feel like you're him. You feel like you're trapped here until the story is over.
Exactly. Yeah, that's definitely how I feel. And I'm glad that you brought up the open courtyard in terms of like they have no roof above them, because yeah, that does kind of like, there's a feeling of trapped, but there's also a feeling of openness, and it's very, it clashes in a way where it's like it complements each other while clashing. And I do have to say, like, when he like finally does, I do kind of find it funny where he kills everybody at the end, and then, or like he kills a bunch of people with his sword, and then they just bring out muskets and shoot him.
Yeah, that also, yeah, I thought it was kind of funny too, but also it's almost like a betrayal of their own honor. Like
Yeah,
they had to go that far to stop one crazy guy from coming in here and taking and completely destroying their clan. If he had been allowed to keep going, then what would have happened? Like they had to go that far for him, and they would never admit that.
yeah. I mean, he could have potentially killed maybe not everybody, maybe everybody, but he would like the body count would be a lot higher if it was, if they didn't do that. So like they were just, but they
Yeah,
didn't want to do that. That's why they hesitated for so long. It was just, but they're
yeah,
just like, you know what, fuck it, fuck my honor. Just we need to take care of this guy. So
yeah, and yeah, like just in general, I want to talk about that scene because, again, we talk about the subversion of the regular samurai movie. What you imagine when you think of a movie about a samurai is them expertly dispatching all of their enemies and traveling through the castle and killing everyone in the house. But in reality,
it's kind
it's
of
not. It's not at like that at all. It really betrays what you think about him, because even the movie is showing you there's like three, I guess not, like maybe like one big fight scene and two smaller ones. Shows that he is a very talented swordsman. He is not a novice. He is not rusty. He is still a very very accomplished swordsman, and yet at in this moment he is fighting like a wild animal, like a rabid dog got into the house and they're trying to get rid of it. Like he breaks down the paper walls, and he by the end when he's wounded, he's swinging his sword like with reckless abandon. That's how he keeps himself alive so long, is he has his weapon and he swings it to deter them from getting closer to him. And even when it feels like there's nothing left that he could do, it seems like he survives longer, and just by sheer will alone. It really felt like a like a death rattle of a fight scene. It was pathetic, but also like really empowering in a way. It's really hard to describe.
yeah, for sure. And it's like it's kind of funny because like a lot of the the tropes that we'd associate with samurai movies. I mean, yeah, they're in some samurai movies. Like I'd say Yojimbo is very much about like kind of a hero, or he's portrayed that way, and like he can come in and solve everybody's problems in the village. But even then, like he's still kind of not portrayed as like as a perfect human being or anything like that. But yeah, the writer of this movie, Shinobu Hashimoto, he has worked with Akira Kurosawa on a bunch of projects, and a lot of people, when they talk about like old samurai movies and stuff, a lot of people pretty much solely dump that on Akira Kurosawa. But he had this whole writing team with Hashimoto, along with Hideo Ojuni and Ryuzo Kikushima. Yeah, Ryuzo Kikushima. Yeah, they were pretty much collaborative on most of their projects, like Seven Samurai, Rashomon, Throne of Blood, which we also watched, um, The Bad Sleep Well, Hidden Fortress. Like, they were involved in all these, so I do kind of like, and the fact that the main actor who played Hashimoto is in a bunch of different Japanese movies as well. It kind of makes you feel like there was this kind of community of Japanese filmmakers who were getting together to make these samurai movies, and they all, encouraged each other to succeed in their own movies because they really see the value of art. Like, and it would have been. It's not like Kurosawa's like, just because this guy worked with Kurosawa, he wasn't like, oh, you can only write samurai movies for me. You can't do it for anybody else. Because he's obviously written for Kobayashi, and
it really feels like a community of filmmakers just trying to lift each other up and make the best films that they could. And
yeah,
it shot, like, again, I haven't watched a whole lot of samurai movies. I'm not you, but I like just for watching this movie, it feels like everyone involved in this production wants to make the best movie possible.
Yeah, and I will say, like, it's kind of funny because I would say that I probably like this more than all of Kurosawa's samurai movies that I've seen. However, my favorite Kurosawa movie is Ikaru, and that's not a samurai movie, and I do like that more than this movie. But it's just kind of funny because, like, I do think this is the best samurai movie I've seen, but I don't think it's the best. I don't think it tops Kurosawa's magnum opus, which is Ikaru, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's I honestly, I had the best time watching this movie. I watched this movie and said I have to watch it again. There's more I have to, now that I know the whole story. I need to watch this again with a fresh mind because I was just so blown away by how everything was handled.
Yeah, me too. And also, before I forget, I do want to go into the score of the movie, which I brought up before. So this was made by, or it was composed by Toru Takemitsu. I feel like frickin' Tim Heidecker on Cinema, mispronouncing every single name I read.
Toru Takemitsu.
Yeah. So, and if this was like not a podcast or like in an Obayashi video, I do try harder to like make sure I'm pronouncing everything right, but in a podcast,
it's just on the fly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
leave it to a weeb like me to be anal about Japanese name pronunciation.
Well, I'm glad I have that weeb vibe here. Yeah. So this composer, he's also worked on a bunch of other movies I've seen, like Ran, The Woman in the Dunes, which is another fantastic movie. That was another part of Kojima's closet picks, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and Under the Blossoming Cherry Trees, which is another pretty good movie from the 70s. And with all those movies, like, there's a lot of silence that happens between scenes, but then, he'll come back with this string instrument, which one sounds very beautiful, but at the same time, it really, really emphasizes the action, and it really, really emphasizes, the emotions of the characters whenever they do bring it back in for another, sting, I guess, because that's what I kind of consider them to be, is like music stings that happen throughout the movie.
No. And the soundtrack is used very sparingly. Like, you're not always bombarded by music. You're only hearing the music when the filmmakers want you to hear the music.
Yeah. And then Takemitsu, I've seen statements from him saying that that's what he does in pretty much all of his movies, is like he tries to find out what the emotion the filmmaker is trying to portray and portray that as best as he possibly can through his music. But he also knows the value of silence, which a lot of Japanese movies do. And because I remember there was like there was a controversy with Castle in the Sky, the Miyazaki movie, because for the English dub, they got the composer to make 30 more minutes of music for it because they didn't think American audiences could handle silence
Oh,
as much as Japanese audiences could. And I I don't know if that's true or not. I personally absolutely love it, and silence says a lot.
it does. It absolutely does. I think that if a lot of these scenes were scored, um, I would not have appreciated them as much as I did, because if you're listening to that music, you're not really taking in the image that that they are trying to convey to you.
Yeah, for sure. And there's there's just so much about this movie that I could praise up and down. It kind of made me want to do like a a deep dive into it, just like as its own separate analysis video, which I don't know if I'll do or not, but that's just the level of praise that I can give to this movie, is that it really makes you want to talk about it. It really makes you want to analyze the themes. It really makes you want to understand the characters and the situations and everything going on it, and seeing just everybody from every single department, like the acting, the directing, the music, all that stuff. Like, it's all done with such, grace that I couldn't, like, there's a reason that this movie's #1 on Letterboxd, and I do not
Yeah.
contest that for a moment. Like,
Oh
even,
yeah.
you can have, I wouldn't say like there is any sort of like standard to go by as in terms of like picking something as the greatest movie of all time. I find that's kind of a ridiculous thing to even bring up. Whether it's, Citizen Kane, The Shawshank Redemption, or this movie, I don't think there is a singular greatest movie of all time. But I do understand why this is #1 on Letterboxd's most highly rated movies, because it really is that good.
Absolutely. And yeah, you talk about what it wants you to do. What it wants me to do is watch more Japanese cinema, honestly, because it really is a picture perfect snapshot of the best of Japanese cinema, I would say. And it just makes me want to watch more. It makes me want to consume more. It makes me want to enjoy the arts more than I already have been. I feel like I've been missing out, honestly.
Well, I mean, you know me. You know that I'm going to recommend more Japanese movies
Oh, I'm
in
looking
this
forward to it.
podcast. So, yeah, I mean, Ikaru is one that I'm definitely going to recommend at some point, because that's, in my opinion, Kurosawa's best movie, or that I've seen, and I've seen about half of his movies. But anyway, there's more to come.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm kind of surprised you're the first person to recommend a Japanese movie on this podcast.
I know, right? Like, who'd have thunk?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I was going to, but then I was like, I think I was going to for this episode, but I'm glad I didn't, because it's good to have like a German movie and a Japanese movie, so it's not all weeb
Not all
talk.
Japanese. Yeah, weeb talk. Well, you talk about weeb talk, you know I'm going to recommend some anime at some point, so get ready for that.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to watch anime as well, even though I'm just
Awesome.
not as familiar with it as live action Japanese. But
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Anyway,
Oh.
Do you have anything else you want to say about this movie before we get to recommendation?
No, I don't think so. I think I've said everything I need to say. I honestly, if you're still on the fence about this movie, you're like, oh, I don't really, I really only watch him for his Adult Swim stuff. I like the Game Dude stuff more. To go watch Harakiri, please. Anyone who is listening to this, go watch Harakiri. This is honestly the best movie I've watched on this podcast so far, and it's going to be hard to beat.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is like, that's the thing. Like, if you had not recommended this movie, I think Downfall would have been a hard one to beat, but this
Yeah.
actually did beat it.
Yeah, I think, you know what? Honestly, I think so too. Downfall was great, but I think this movie was just a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, okay, so movie recommendations, I guess.
Yes.
I'll let you go first, since we'll do yours first time, since my recommendation was first this time. So, or next time.
Okay.
Blah, I can't talk. This is what happens when you record a podcast when you're recovering from an illness. So
Yeah, maybe you'll be in better spirits next time when you watch this film. So yeah,
well,
I texted.
I'm in high spirits. It's just that my brain
Is
is
not.
dumb right now.
All right. So, um, God, it is so. It took me starting a podcast where you have to recommend movies to realize that recommending movies is really hard sometimes. Because now every time I have to recommend a movie, it sneaks up on me. So I had a couple of options. With December coming up, I was thinking about recommending a Christmas movie, but I don't think it's the right time. I think I'm going to wait for next year to do that.
Okay.
Instead, something recently dropped on Netflix just yesterday, and it made me think of a movie that I haven't thought about in a really long time, and I thought it might be best to talk about it. This movie came out in 2010. It was a big blockbuster hit. It's directed by a director that you're a big fan of, and it was my favorite movie of 2010. Um, and I would have been 16 at the time, so that's very telling. The movie I'm recommending just recently got a anime adaptation on Netflix that I've just started watching yesterday that
Oh,
I've been a
okay.
big
I know what
fan
you're
of.
talking about now.
Yeah, and it's Scott Pilgrim versus the World by Edgar Wright, starring Michael Cera.
Awesome.
I am a big
Okay.
fan. This was my favorite movie of 2010. I haven't watched it in a long time, so I'm not sure how well it holds up, but I am hoping it does because from what I remember, it was. I think I've seen this. I bought this movie on Blu-ray as a kid. Whenever Blu-ray was first just jumping, like first just coming out and being really popular, because I just wanted to see it in the highest definition. And I think I watched it like 10 times, 3 times in the theater, like 10 times at home. I was obsessed with this movie, and I read all the
I
graphic
remember you
novels. And
saying that. Yeah, I read the novels too. I mean, I wanted to watch the anime adaptation on Netflix, so I mean, I guess we'll probably talk about that next time too a little bit. So we could
yeah,
also
that's what
recommend
I was
people check
hoping.
out. Yeah, so I guess let's also recommend that people check out the anime adaptation.
Yeah, so if anyone's following us, go check out Scott Pilgrim versus the World by Edgar Wright, and then also check out on Netflix Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, the anime adaptation. Because God, I'm so excited for that, and I'm so excited to finish it. I've only watched the first episode, so I'm
Okay, how
really
many
hoping it's
episodes
gonna be
is
good.
it?
I don't even know, but I can't imagine it'd be too many. I know that the anime um, is done through it's been produced by Science Saru. If you know, but do you know about Science Saru?
No, I don't think so.
Science Saru was Basaki Yuasa's animation studio, and he did Ping Pong the animation. He did
Oh,
Devilman
okay, I've heard about that.
Crybaby. Devilman Crybaby, Japan Sinks, a lot of really. If you've seen Kaiba, that's another really good anime that I'd really recommend. He's a really and keep your hands off Izukin. I would also recommend if you want to talk um, about Masaki Yuasa. But I'm not here talking about anime right now. I'm recommending you all at least go check out 2010 Scott Pilgrim vs. the World with Michael Cera and directed by Edgar Wright. So that is my movie for next month.
Okay, yeah, and Scott Pilgrim Takes Off on Netflix because
Yes, and
I
Scott
mean that'll
Pilgrim takes off.
probably be kind of like a mini review in the same podcast, kind of like what we did with the Raggedy Ann musical stage play.
Exactly, a little side note.
Yeah, but I'm actually happy. I've wanted to watch that, but I don't usually watch things unless I'm going to talk about them on my YouTube channel in some capacity. So you've finally given me an excuse to do that, so I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, so my movie recommendation, I figured since Harakiri and Downfall were kind of darker movies, and I have a bunch of recommendations that are for darker movies, but maybe I should just try to do something a little bit more bright and happy for next
Yeah.
time since it is the holiday season. So, you know what? Fuck
Yeah.
it. From 1968, The Party with Peter Sellers. Do you know of this movie?
I don't know this movie at all.
Okay, well,
Actually, I
I won't
I
say
the,
anything about it really, other than it stars Peter Sellers. But yeah, it's a comedy, and I watched it like when I was a teenager, and I haven't watched it since. But I remember a lot that I appreciated about it, and there was an episode of Home Movies called The Party, which was kind of like a big homage to this movie.
oh
So
really?
yeah, and it's
Huh.
by the person who directed the Pink Panther movies and Being There, which is another great movie. But yeah, I just wanted something a little bit maybe lighter. So that and Scott Pilgrim is a good way to contrast Downfall and Harakiri, I think. So
Yeah, a bit of an upper after the downer. That sounds great.
yeah,
Oh, all
and
right.
yeah, and before I go, since I forgot to do this the past 2 times, if you'd like to donate to our channel, follow the links in the video description or to donate on Patreon or PayPal. You can also send us money via Super Chats. And join our Discord. Talk to me and a few of our other subscribers. Me, you,
It's a lot of fun. I'm
Mike.
in there. Yeah, Mike's great. Talk to Ian, I guess, but I'm on there too, and I talk about
Yeah.
stuff too. If
Yep.
you'd like me.
We're a funky bunch, and I am the Marky Mark. So
Yeah, Ian's the
yeah,
Marky Mark, and I am the Funky Bunch.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can go check us out on Spotify, and if you're watching us on Spotify, you can go check us out on YouTube.
If you're checking this out on Spotify, thank you very much. I just want to say thank you to the 5 people who has watched us so far on Spotify. I don't quite know how to advertise a podcast on Spotify, but for anyone who has actually listened to us on Spotify, I love you. I support you. Maybe go check out the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. I wonder if those 5 people are aware of Game Dude and all the other wonderful things that we've talked
Well,
about. So
I think we name dropped him in every episode at least once now, so I'm hoping that someone knows about Game Dude if they're listening on Spotify.
I mean, yeah, I think that's just an inevitable thing that's going to come up in pretty much, well, not every video that I make, but a lot of them.
Yeah, fair.
I apologize, by the way, if I rambled in this podcast at all. Like, yeah,
This
I'm
is
still
just
kind of
honestly, this is just a podcast where we ramble about movies, so it fits in pretty well. I think that's fine.
okay. Well,
All right.
I hope
Well, yeah,
that our
I'll.
audience thinks so as well.
Yeah, I hope so too. So I'll let Ian go and rest a little bit more and finish recovering from his illness. And I guess it's up to me, and I will let all of you guys go. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all on the next episode, where we'll watch Scott Pilgrim versus the World and The Party. See you guys later,
Yeah.
and see
And
you
Scott
next
Pilgrim
time.
takes off.
And Scott Pilgrim takes off. Watch Scott Pilgrim takes off. Bye.
Adios.